respectfully acknowledge and honour the Aboriginal people of Australia's Northern Territory and recognise the continuation of culture, connections to land, water and country. We pay our respects to Elders past, present and future. So welcome to this webinar, a deep dive into the marketing section. It is being recorded, and if you have any questions during the session, please raise your hand. Lauren's going to keep an eye out also on the chat for us, and we will have some time for questions, or if you've got anything you would like us to add to it after each question. And otherwise, if you can keep your microphones just on mute if you're not asking a question. So today we are being joined by Emma Fraser, our Consumer Marketing Manager for Tourism NT, and we will obviously be sharing lots of different marketing insights for your Brolga submissions. So noting that some of the categories, ecotourism, cultural and Aboriginal and Torres Strait, this is actually section 4, so don't get confused, but it's still all talking about the marketing. So the marketing section is designed for you to really highlight your understanding of your marketing strategies, but also who your target market is, your audience. So noting that this section is worth 15 points. The first question about target markets is worth only 5 points, where your marketing strategy is obviously worth 10 points. So probably where you would obviously use more words, which you probably really need to anyway. So the guided format will actually again be highlighted in this presentation. So providing an overview of your business target market. So again, when it comes to asking the overview, it does say brief introduction, but try not to be too brief. Karina actually did point out last webinar, kind of make it actually a really good introduction. So introduce your understanding of your target markets and how they align with your product, your offering, your festival, your event. Really make sure that that is actually clear to the judge as an introduction. How these customers align to your visions, your values, your goals, and also how you detail your research and highlight the sources that have informed you of your marketing target markets and the strategies. So again, a key kind of hint from last week or last webinar was actually make this overview have a strategic goal. So the judges then go, oh, okay, I really want to read a little bit more to actually see where you were putting in this, goal as such, achieving this goal. So this is where I'm going to introduce Emma. So Emma, could you share some insights into target markets, please?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Chrissy, and good morning, everybody. I'll just go through some insights and some things that you may want to consider in this section. So this part of the submission, it's really about pulling together the thinking that you've probably already been guiding your marketing throughout the year, who you've been targeting, why, and then how that aligns with what you offer. In tourism marketing, we usually build target markets based on a mix of different factors, things like where people are coming from, their age or their stage of life, how they like to travel, what kind of experiences they're really drawn to, whether it be road trips, cultural experiences, adventure, luxe, education, or just knowledge building around a destination. There's often already a natural alignment between your audience and what you offer. In some cases, your key audience might also reflect your business's broader purpose or your values. For example, if you're focused on storytelling, accessibility, or showcasing remote and rugged landscapes. You might have also seen strong interest from interstate drive markets, or maybe you've noticed more younger couples booking online, people who are interested in connecting with cultures. That kind of insight really helps shape the picture here. Often it's also about putting structure around what you already know or what measures you've already taken to get to know your audiences even better, based on bookings, your social media followers, your website analytics, or even just informal conversations you've had with your visitors. And that picture can also be supported by broader industry research, for example, Tourism NT's visitor profiles, destination management plans, or any national research from Tourism Research Australia or Tourism Australia, which is particularly useful if you're focused on a growth market or an emerging market. Some businesses focus on one or two well-established audiences. Others might define two or three, and they're often grouped as primary, secondary, growth, or emerging. It's really about choosing and identifying those segments that feel more relevant and clearly articulating why. And also importantly, when deciding which markets you include, you can work to make sure that at least one of them aligns with the marketing strategies you'll be talking about later on in the submission as well. That connection really brings the whole piece together. And this section can also give you an opportunity to have a really measurable goal tied to that market. Things like if you're focused on increasing off-peak visitation or attracting a new audience segment, whatever has been the focus for you. And then this next section talks about meeting expectations of your target market. It's about demonstrating how you've actually tailored your product, your service, or your experience or your event to really suit the needs of your chosen market, and how you've used that data or that research to really support that decision. This often shows up in how you present your experience to the market, your messaging, the kind of imagery that you're using, or just the storytelling that you use, or even the way that you've just structured your product. If you are targeting, say, the drive market, for example, you might highlight flexible stays or have an itinerary planning option. Or if your focus is on culturally motivated travellers, you might really lean into stories and people and those kind of connections that people can have. Some operators may also adapt things based on things like accessibility or digital behaviours they've seen, any family-friendly features. It really just depends on the expectations of your audience and how you're responding to them.
So you've got a webinar. What time does that?
Sorry, I think that was just someone in the background. That's also likely where your internal research comes in. So things that you're seeing like booking trends, your Google Analytics, email performance, customer reviews, or any surveys that you've done. It's all those signals about what's resonating with your audience. And also those external research factors can come into play, as mentioned earlier. And here there's also value in marketing performance too. So say if you've set up a promo code, monitoring that uptake, any social media engagement, digital results or campaign feedback, especially if that's helped inform how you deliver your experience over time. So really this section, it just gives you that chance to say that you've listened to your audience, understood what they're looking for, and how you've reflected that position and how you promote and deliver your product.
Thank you, Emma. So again, it also then has a section B, being that, a question B, which is asking you to provide visual evidence to reinforce your written information. So again, here on this slide gives you a range of different examples for you to consider. Again, they're in the comprehensive answer guide that all nominees have been provided with. Also gives you some great examples for you to utilise. So realistically, remember that it is to reinforce your written response. So is there anything else that you would like us to enhance or any questions when it comes to target markets? For now?
Doesn't look like there's anything in the chat, Chrissy.
Thank you. So marketing strategies is the second question in this section. And again, it's asking you to profile 3 to 5 examples of marketing strategies. But again, it also asks you for an overview to start. So again, a great little introduction for you to introduce who you, in your business or festival and event actually drives your marketing. You know, if you're a big team, you know, talk about your team. If you're a small, you know, sole operator, talk about how you, you know, dedicate your time to looking at your marketing. how you plan, you review and update your marketing strategies, and the frequency. Again, it might be more seasonal, it might be, quarterly, it might be annually. Emphasize your consistent brand messaging, or if you have done some changes or looked at different ways of your brand, maybe highlight that in your introduction. So again, if you can show your brand personality while being strategic is a great introduction overview for the judges on this section. So Emma, can you share some factors entrants should consider when choosing the marketing strategies for their Brolga Awards submission?
Yes, sure. Thanks again, Chrissy. So it's really about choosing really strong examples that showed how through your planning, your purpose, and throughout a mix of tactics. So this could be through a campaign that you ran, any kind of trade engagement, any PR opportunities, partnerships, or even a website update or an SEO push. In tourism marketing, we often think about strategies in terms of their role. Are they awareness driven? Are they pushing conversion? Or are they about building a preference towards your brand? Or are we trying to gain retention or re-engagement of a certain audience? That thinking really shapes the story of why you've invested in a particular channel or a particular marketing approach. A good mix might include things like running a digital campaign, engaging with a trade event, running a social media campaign, any content partnerships you may have, if you've worked with an influencer or a media outlet, brochure distribution, or even just a participation in a cooperative campaign with Tourism and Tea or your RTO. This section it's a really good chance to show that leadership and creativity, especially if your approach went kind of beyond that business as usual. That usually means trying something new or collaborating in a different way, or even just taking a bit of a bold approach to content. Here you might choose to include who the activity was aimed at, what the objective was, why you chose that strategy, and how it aligned back to your broader marketing, and also what the outcome was. And I think even better, I think if it's something that you can really quantify. And just like your target markets, your strategies should connect right back to them. For example, if your audience is younger couples booking short stays in Darwin, using a short video on social media, that kind of thing makes sense. Or if you're targeting the drive market, maybe you're focused on a shoulder season radio campaign in Alice Springs. Here you could also touch on how you review and adjust your strategies, whether within a formal campaign, reporting format, or monthly optimizations, or any kind of informal learnings that you've applied along the way. It just helps to show that intent and there's tweaking behind the marketing decision. And brand consistency is also a cool one to call out, particularly if you've refreshed your look or your feel, or if it's aligned with Tourism and Tea's messaging, or any kind of broader campaign platforms that the RTOs may be running as well. And then here, I think we'll run into just breaking down those strategies. So once you've chosen the marketing strategy, we now just break them down. So we make sure that each one tells a clear story for what you set out to achieve, to who you were doing it for, what you did, and then also how it performed. And from a tourism marketing point of view, it's really useful to include a simple structure for each strategy. So that is things like your objective that you set out to have, who the audience was targeted at, the activity that you delivered, and why you chose that campaign. So your objective might be something like increasing brand awareness or generating new leads, improving your online engagement. It could also be reaching a new segment or increasing bookings during a specific time of year. Then you'd outline the activity itself. So, for example, running a paid campaign to promote a new experience, or partnering with a media outlet to reach an interstate audience, or even attending a trade show to build out your distribution. It can also be helpful to mention what informed the strategy, whether that's something you saw in your own data or a broader destination insight, like aligning with anything you've seen with Tourism NT or an RTO theme. And also, it could be interesting to include any testing or optimization, like trialing any kind of different messaging or changing creative mid-campaign. That also shows strategic marketing thinking. And then finally, a measurable outcome is key. That could include an uplift in bookings, digital performance metrics, campaign reach, or just learnings from something that may not have even gone exactly to plan. And then Chrissy, I'll go into the tactics section now, which is on screen.
Sorry, I pressed too many buttons.
So at this stage, you've covered the strategy. And so now we're talking about the tactics. So if the strategy is the plan, what you set out to do and why, then the tactics are the actions that you took to deliver it. And that's what this part of the entry is focusing on. So in tourism marketing, that might include any media placements, any familials that you ran, a radio campaign or a regional TV push, running any social ads, sending out emails by marketing, a brochure refresh, a content partnership, and often it's a combination of one or a few of those things. And you may also highlight partnerships that you've had with online travel agents, where those played a key role in your delivery. So this part of the submission is really about what was executed, so those real world activities and how it reflected your understanding of the audience and goals. It could also be possible to reference how any of your activity aligned with wider Northern Territory goals, like any seasonal messaging, drive campaigns or shoulder season growth. And when it comes to outcomes, we often see a mix of metrics and tactical results too, such as things like your digital engagement, if you increased any inquiries coming through as a result or any bookings, if you had any kind of PR value, or even just a new trade relationship that was formed. It's also a good one to note that, you know, if anything is still in market or just wrapped up, you could include early results or forward-looking projections. It could just still be good to acknowledge what's available and what's sort of still unfolding. And like I said before, in marketing, sometimes the learnings are just as valuable as the numbers too, whether it was just testing something different or adjusting your approach, or even just discovering a new unexpected audience insight. So I guess to kind of wrap everything up, really section 3 is about drawing that connection between who your audience is, what you've done to reach them, and how you've measured that impact.
And again, it does have a question B, which then is again the visual evidence. So for previous entrants, new to 2025, for this question only, you get to actually provide a video that was created or used as part of your marketing campaign. So possibly you have a TikTok that you actually were like, oh great, so I now talked about it as my marketing strategy. You get to provide it as part of the visual evidence for the judges to obviously watch the TikTok as such. So again, you don't need to create them. You need to just use them if you would like to, you know, you've talked about them in your in your strategies. Otherwise, again, there's a range of collages that is a great idea. Also, you can add to it some actual, quantifiable results to your collage, or your a social media, screen grab, really showing your engagement statistics, those sort of things. So they're what will reinforce your written response. So the next slides is a range of useful links, which is for especially that external research that Emma was talking about. So again, after the webinar, I will provide a PDF, which then provides the links just to make it easy for you to be able to click on them and, utilize these tools, from Tourism NT to also the Tourism Australia, Tourism Research Australia, our destination management plans for each of the regions in the Northern Territory. So is there any questions or anything further you would like, Emma, especially to, explore? Carolyn's got a hand up.
Yeah, Carolyn, did you want to jump in?
Hello, thank you for all of that information. That was all fantastic. I just had a question about how to handle strategies where you don't necessarily have a quantifiable outcome. I mean, marketing can be a bit of an art and a science, and it's not always that you have a number attached to the outcome for a strategy. So if, for example, you were developing new advertising creative, you wouldn't necessarily have a number attached to that. How would you suggest that we approach that kind of situation?
Yeah, sure. And I think it's important to note that in a marketing strategy, it doesn't have to have a hard number attached to it. So creating something like a new creative is still very strategic. It's often about improving how your brand connects to your audience. So you could talk about what prompted, a change in or a refresh of a creative, what you wanted to shift, and kind of how it was used. So whether it led to better engagement, a clearer message, or a kind of a bit of a stronger alignment back to your target market. It's more about that ongoing intent and impact, even if it's not directly measurable.
Right. Okay. So if you'd done research that indicated that it was time for a refresh, that would be enough from a numbers sense. You don't necessarily have to have research at the other end.
Absolutely. I think you've responded to something that you've seen, and that's strategic in itself.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
And remember, the judges do want to read it as in a story to a certain level as well. Like, oh, wow. Okay. So totally understand why you were doing that. Not, oh, there wasn't an increase by 10% isn't actually, suitable for that example, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
We've got a question in the chat from Deb. Does one have to make videos? I understand it definitely gets attention.
I don't think so, Deb. I think it's very dependent on what you want to achieve and what your target market responds to. It doesn't have to be a video. It could be an image if you send it out onto social media. It could be a brochure. No, the answer to that question does not have to be just a video at all. It's, people respond to a range of different creatives in marketing, and it's just one of many tactics that you could use.
Cool. Okay, I'm scared of technology, that's all.
Alex,
thank you.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, hi Emma. I was just thinking about when you said to break it down and identify, was it a campaign, an exhibition, an event, a partnership? One of our target markets was China market, and we attended multiple trade events and hosted multiple famils. Can I talk about that as one strategy, or would I need to break it down, and would each, action be split? What would your recommendation be?
I think it sounds like it would be part of your strategy. So whether that is if you were trying to reach a certain market, or if you were trying to extend your distribution, which I think it sounds like that's what it was, that would form your strategy, your plan, who you're doing it, why you're doing it, and then the tactics are all of the different trade shows that you attended to reach that goal within your strategy.
Okay, so that could be one item and then use another for a different target market. Thank you.
That's right.
And I mean, in truth, if you really feel like if you split it in two to make two awesome strategies, then that's fine. But remember, it says 3 to 5 strategies. More is not always better. So possibly, it being one strong strategy for the China market, and highlighting those various elements might be better, I think, Alex.
Okay, thanks, Chrissy.
Any other questions? Not for now. Okay, so this slide again is just a reminder of important dates. you know, really the 3rd of September is going to be here. Unfortunately, we're already the 4th of June. The time is flying by. Again, I'm here to support you. The next webinar is the deep dive for section 4 and 5 on the 18th of June. And we are looking just how we're going to do differently to make it smoother for you as entrants for our final draft review or mock judging as such sort of thing. So keep an eye out and some comms about that, because again, kind of want to be able to make sure that it is suitable for you as entrants. Otherwise, I would really like to thank Emma for, you know, sharing your marketing insights. Much appreciated. Again, you know, I think you've given some great examples and ideas, and again, from utilising this webinar as the recording and again the links for the research pages. I hope that you as entrants can utilise it in the future along with the comprehensive answer guide. If I can help in any way, don't hesitate to give me a call or an email. Otherwise, hopefully see you all at the final webinar. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chrissy. Thanks, Emma.